Stop right there, criminal scum!
Excuse me, son? I am on my way to fight Xeno scum!
That's no excuse going to 55 in a 50 zone.
Listen to me, Arbites. Just because you couldn't cut as a commissar doesn't mean you get to put this one on me. Well, this is a speed paint tutorial not only to show you how to paint your Arbites, but how to quickly paint black armor. We will not be using contrast paints, washes, or an airbrush. It's a hassle, and it takes me longer anyways. I don't have an airbrush. But I'm gonna show you how to paint these in under 30 minutes. And if you are a new subscriber, conscript, you will be on latrine duty. The only way to get out is to bring a new person to take your place. Step 0, you are going to prime your mini black, because after all, the armor is going to be black. Once you're done with that, you are going to get the Vallejo German gray. It's a very dark gray, and it is darker than Eschen gray. Now, you're just going to want to put this over the armor plates. If you're not using a wet palette, you're going to want to slightly water down your paint, but you don't want it too watery like an ink-like substance. And you're just going to go over all of the armor plates, staying away from all the creases or where the armor plates end, like all those edges, or where the armor plates meet and come to a sharp point. You want to leave all of those areas alone in that pure black, because later on when we do the highlights, they're really going to pop. Now on the shield itself, I just got a slightly larger brush, and I just tapped it in on the middle, just tapping it, making that highlight brighter towards the middle and staying away from the edges. And this is going to make it look a little bit more grim, especially if you imagine that shield just getting hit and banged up a whole lot. Now on the sides, I just tapped it along those edges on that outer edge of the shield, along all of it around it, leaving that areas where that shield has that slight raised area dark in that pure black. For a little extra highlight, you're gonna mix equal parts Mechanicus Standard Gray with the Vallejo German Gray, or just use Eschen Gray. And I'm just gonna stipple or just tap it in, and I did that little middle area on that shield. I like to be a little messy on this, so it's like a little wear and tear. Now I still want to keep that Eschen Gray along the outside and that black kind of around those edges. You're just gonna tap that in. Now for the mini itself, again, you want to do this in a smaller section than you did on that previous step with that German Gray. And I just stayed away on some areas that would be kind of sunken in. So like if you did the calf, you wouldn't highlight that bottom area that's sunken in. You just want to do a little bit of stippling, staying away from edges and where those armor plates meet. Now like on the back, you'd obviously want to highlight more on the top because that sun is going to hit it. Or where that arm is, I'd highlight that top area and then leave that bottom area alone where the sun is not going to hit it or any light source is going to hit it unless it's coming from the bottom. Now where those plates meet, I highlighted near those plates, but I did not highlight that top plate. I still left it black. And where that chest is, I highlighted that as well. You want to make sure you do that for the shoulders and the helmet too. Now it is time to really seal in the black armor. We're going to use adminastratum gray, and you're going to want to water this down just slightly so it glides on all nice and smooth. And at a 45-degree angle, you are going to use the side of your brush to hit the edges. You don't have to hit all the edges. I just hit a lot of the major ones. So at the 45-degree angle, you're going to hit all those edges and where those armor plates meet. And this is really going to help your mini pop out, especially since we left all those edges black. So they're really just going to pop. Now on the shield itself, I just tapped it along the edges, and then sometimes I like to sweep it in or sweep it out, and it kind of creates these natural little light scratch effects on the shield. This is also a good time to add light scratches on your mini if you want to do that. We are going to be using Dryad bark to base all of the areas that are going to be gold or leather. And I did make sure I took screenshots in darktide. The holster on the side is in fact a brown leather. So I went ahead and based that in Dryad bark as well. You're going to use a bright gold or the Vallejo gold. And as you can see where like that fist is on the shield and is also going to be on the shoulder, we're just going to tap it on there. We want to make sure that we get these all nice and bright, and we're leaving these inner areas and creases all nice and dark in that Dryad bark. Now, if like this was the wing, we want our brush to go in the direction of the wing so that this way, this is going to be a whole lot darker in those inner areas. And we want to keep those ridges in that dark as well. And when you go with the direction, it's gonna be easier to not get into those areas. Now I went ahead and I highlighted that top area and those ridges just a little bit more with that gold. Now on that pauldron or that shoulder, you're just gonna wanna make sure that you hit all of those edges. I just go ahead and tap it in. And where it kind of has those larger areas in those sections, I just stippled or just tapped in the gold. Now, if you did want to do a wash, you could use a brown wash. I did not use a wash on this one. Or you could use Nolan oil. But if you do get that brown wash on the black armor, it is going to make it look bad and it's going to look off from the rest of it. So a Nolan oil would be the safest bet. Next, you're gonna get a pure white. I use the Pro Acryls Bold Titanium White, which is my favorite white paint. Now, all of the Arbites has this white stripe on the helmet, and it almost has this like little natural line ridge for you to put that white stripe in, which is actually just gonna help you paint this that much better. Now, it has this little ridge dead in the middle. Now, I like to keep that part still dark, and I just try to paint that side on each side of the ridge, letting that area be dark. And the reason why is because I like to think that the paint just kind of chipped off a little bit on that top. So I just think it looks better doing it that way. Now, I use Nolan oil as a wash over that white just to add a little bit of contrast and to make sure that it's just not a pure bold white on that mini, or it's just gonna stick out like a sore thumb. Once you're done with that, using the same exact white, we're gonna go ahead and do all of those little lights. Light the little lights on the chest piece and the light on the shield, which has those two red lights. Now in darktide, that little visor is not a red light, but I thought it would look cool, and it most definitely does. So make sure that you go ahead and get that in the white. I try to leave that ridge area or those outer areas still dark. And that's just gonna make that glow effect look a little bit better. We're gonna do the same exact thing in the eyes. We wanna just try to get that inner visor area, still leaving that dark around those edges. Once you're done with that, we are going to go ahead and get the Blood Scarlet, aka Interactive ink, which I actually really like this ink if you have not used it already. We are just going to go ahead and circle in all of those lights. I like to just put a little bit extra around the light just to make it look like it's glowing and have a little bit more of a pop. Now, like on the visor on the shield, I just went ahead, put the whole ink in the visor, and then I like to put a little bit extra around the sides just to help it make it pop a little bit more. Did the same exact thing with the eyes, did the whole thing in the ink, and then I just like to put a little bit extra in those corners with that ink, and because it's so watery, it's just gonna wanna sink into all of those little creases in the visor. Now, if you really want to make this glow just a little bit more, I went ahead and just used a light pink, or you just use Emperor's Children and just did a little bit on the inside of the visor and just a little tap dot on those lights. If your mini happens to have a plume or a shotgun, then you're going to want to be using corn red. For the plume itself, it has these 3 areas that are going to be red. I went ahead, based that in corn red. I like to go from the area that I just painted that corn red. Make sure you hit that side, so that way when you paint it in the back, it's going to be easier to match it from the front. Now, I went ahead and just washed that with a little Nolan oil, so it just didn't look like a pure corn red based over it. If you really want to do the extra mile, you can always base that in do highlights with a little bit of mint feastin red on the tips of the red area, and then do a gray on the black areas if you really want to. Now, for the shotgun, I went ahead and used a watered down corn red. For the watered down, you want it to be like an ink-like substance. That way it has some type of like transparency to it, and it can build up color. Now, I went ahead and I just tapped it in, or just stippled it in on that middle area of the shotgun, kind of leaving those edges darker, and then build up that highlight brighter and brighter, brighter towards that middle area by just tapping it. And I went ahead and did this for the entire shotgun. I absolutely love the way the Arbites look. They look like the Judge Dredd of Warhammer 40K, and how could you not love it? They look so cool. I absolutely love them. And also, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Judge Dredd with Karl Urban, but it is so good. It is definitely like a high A-tier movie. And I've been getting a lot of like Karl Urban with the guy who plays Aragorn from Lord of the Rings. I think his name's like Ego or something like that. Buying Gundam. I mean, it must be a sign from the machine spirit, since it is everywhere in my feed. Also, remember, it is heresy not to like and subscribe to this video. And if you want even more content, check out my gaming channel at Nuka and Kitten Gaming. Bye!